Well, good morning, loved ones. I'm wondering this morning if you, like me, if you aren't maybe just a little bit overwhelmed by all of the voices that are right now speaking into our societal distress. And of all the things that are being said, one of the most common themes or the most common threads of the voices that are calling out right now there's a call that is being placed upon all people to say something, to speak out, to say something in particular about injustice, which is something that I think ought to be easy for followers of God, for followers of Christ to do. For our God speaks, and our God speaks out, and he does indeed speak out about particularly injustice. In Psalm 82, our God speaks to us saying this: "How long will you judge unjustly and show partiality to the wicked? Give justice to the weak and the fatherless, maintain the rights of the afflicted and the destitute, rescue the weak and the needy, deliver them from the hand of the wicked." Ours is a speaking God. Our faith is a speaking faith, which is why I believe it is only right that we, God's people, be engaged in speaking out. It is right for us to say something, and it is right for us to say some things about injustice. But here's my concern. I'm concerned that in our speaking out and that in our saying something, sometimes we're just saying stuff. We are speaking out of our own frustration. We are speaking out of our own hurt, and there is a place for that. But we must be humble. We must not confuse our passions with what is right and what is true. When we speak out, we must speak out in a way that is consistent with what God says and in a way that is consistent with who God is, what he says, and what his heart beats for ought to be a part of our conversation. Speaking for God requires humility. It is a fearful thing to speak for the Lord. It is a fearful thing to speak out and say, "Thus saith the Lord." The problem of speaking out of our passions, out of our emotions, is it places us in a place of being in jeopardy of misrepresenting God, and none of us wants to do that. We're in a place where in our speaking out, we're giving vent in an emotional, unhealthy way to passions that inflame our hearts and that do represent the heart of God, but in ways that aren't helpful, in ways that unfortunately can be damaging. What we don't want to do is we don't want to do harm in the process of our speaking out for God. Proverbs 10 verse 19 tells us that where words are many, transgression, sin is present. But still, to be clear, we are called out to speak. We are called to speak out. We ought to say some things. And the things that we say, oh, God, give us grace to make them things that are consistent with his heart, and true to his word. So, how do we go about speaking things to society and to our world, to our own hearts, our own lives, our families, and the people who are around us? How do we say something in a way that is consistent with God's word and a way that is true to his heart? That's what I want us to do. That's what I want to be engaged in. I don't want just to say stuff. If you want me to say stuff, well, come visit me at my office and you will hear some stuff. I got a lot of stuff I can say. I have opinions. And there's the problem. When it comes to opinions, I'm pretty sure that my opinions are all right. That I have a clear view on the way things are and the way things ought to be done. But humility demands that I pull back and be honest with myself and honest with you and honest with the world, and leave room for the possibility that maybe I don't know everything accurately, and maybe my prescriptions for healing aren't all the best. So, how do we go about doing so? How do we go about saying things, saying something in a way that we're saying the right things that are for the healing of our land, that are for the strengthening of our character, that are for the building up of God's church, and that are for the forwarding of his message in this world? A way that helps us move forward to bring healing in our land. In forthcoming foyer talks, the next 3 or 4 maybe, I'm going to suggest a couple of things that I think we can all do that will help us do that. But for today, I just want to focus this thought. Lord, would you help us to be humble? And so when we approach your word, may we approach your word with humility, so that when we come to your word, we hear your voice, rather than bringing our voices to your word and finding what we already believe here. We want you to form our thoughts so that our words are true representations of your words. And at the same time, Lord, we want you to control our hearts so that when we speak out, we're speaking out in a way that is true to your heart. Because your heart is good, Lord. And your heart is for the healing of our land. So may we humble ourselves as we give ourselves to approaching God's word and thinking about our world in a way that will be for our world's health and its building up and the advancement of God's good kingdom. God bless you.